Good evening and welcome to our special discussion. Ballots without choice is Bangladesh at a crossroad. Today's program examines recent political developments in Bangladesh through the lens of democratic participation, constitutional principles, regional security, and evolving geopolitical dynamics. We will explore how questions surrounding electoral inclusive proposed in constitutional changes and the broader strategic interest of global and regional actors may shape Bangladesh's political trajectory in the future. It is our privilege to be joined by Ms. Veena Sikri, the former Indian High Commissioner Diplomat to Bangladesh. She is an incredible academics, and good to know that she is also a Democrat and feminist. Whose diplomatic experience offers valuable insight into these complex issues. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you so much. Dear audience, we know that over the last 18 months, what has been going on, especially the current interim government that we term illegal and backed by international factors, arranging a vote that the major political party Awami League is out of the contest. According to international human rights standards, specifically Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as well as Article 25 of the International Convent on Civil and Political Rights, dictate that an election is genuinely inclusive and representative only when it guarantees the freely expressed will of the people. At the same time, I'd like to notify to our audience that Article 7 of the Constitution of Bangladesh, Article 37, 39, 38, those articles ensure the freedom of speech, peaceful assembly, as well as freedom of associations and freedom of thoughts. But what we are observing today, we see that Awami League, who led the liberation war, and has more than 40 to 50%, voters, and they have choice. But we have seen that they are not placed in the ballot. So ballots have been prepared with that voice. So thank you so much. Suki, I'd like to have a questions to you. Can Bangladesh's election be seen as inclusive and representative of voters' will, particularly when the participation of a signatory party such as the champion of democracy and liberation war, Awami League, is left out from the elections? What's your thought and opinion?
Well, thank you for inviting me and for arranging this important discussion. I fully agree that the elections are not inclusive. And the most important part of the, when we consider that the elections are not inclusive, is that if they are not inclusive, they are not credible. Exactly. So that is the most important aspect. And I think that it is very clear that an election, in order to be credible, has to be free, fair, and inclusive. It has to be participatory. All the political parties registered with the Election Commission of the country have to be allowed to participate in the election. And no matter what is you can have different points of view. You can have different points of view about the election and who you will vote for. But not allowing any party to participate, banning the activities of any party like the interim regime of Bangladesh has done. This is completely against the Constitution of Bangladesh, and it is not in keeping with it is absolutely not in keeping with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that you mentioned. Yes. And it goes against what has been happening in Bangladesh all these years, because Bangladesh has been having free, fair, and inclusive elections. The previous government of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, she never banned any party. The BNP chose not to participate in the elections. These elections, and we know that the Jamaat-e-Islami, there was a court case about the Jamaat-e-Islami because they were not willing to accept that the Bangladesh constitution is superior to their own party constitution, and they kept saying that our party, the will of Allah is superior, so we will not accept. So they were not even willing to accept that it should be, whether you can submit. So because of that, there was a court case, and the Jamaat-e-Islami was not allowed to participate by the courts of Bangladesh in the election, because they had not answered all the queries about, their. And then, of course, after that, we saw that in the run up to the uh, events of July, August 2024, just a few days before Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country. At that time, the ban of the Jamaat-e-Islami did come in because of the activities of Jamaat-e-Islami at that time. So I think that this is a very important aspect. But I think that here, I think we have to ask very strongly the Western countries, including Australia, I have to say, that why have they not taken this position? Why have they got different rules for their own countries and different rules for Bangladesh? This is a very important question, which I think all the Western countries who call themselves democracies and who pride themselves on their democracy, they have very active institutions. They have, the free media. They have an independent judiciary. They have political parties. They organize elections regularly, but they are not allowing the Awami League to participate in the elections in Bangladesh, and they're not even raising any questions about it. So I think this is really something that I have found very mystifying and inexplicable, and I think not in keeping with their profession for democracy. They keep talking about democracy. They keep professing that, no, we believe in democracy and we must have full democracy, but they don't follow the rules themselves. For other countries, for their own country, they will have a different rule. And I think it all boils back to what happened in Bangladesh in July, August 2024. And we know that it was not a spontaneous students' uprising. That is the most fundamental aspect, that the Western countries who have been supporting the unconstitutional regime of interim regime of Dr. Mahbhub, they have to accept that the events of July, August 24 were neither spontaneous nor a students' uprising. In fact, the reality and the truth about the events in July, August 2024 were revealed by Dr. Mohammed Yunus himself, because in September 2024, when he was speaking in New York at the Clinton Global Initiative, at that time, he himself said, "Oh, don't think it happened by itself. It was meticulously designed." And he was the mastermind of the meticulous design, and that was Mahfouz Alam, who is known to be a member of the Hizb ut-Tahrir, which is in many places a banned organization. It's an Islamist organization. And they said he brought him on the stage and said he's the one who organized it all. So how is this spontaneous student uprising? Even the students who in the heat of the moment thought that they were protesting against the quotas given to freedom fighters and their children, but the fact is that the quotas had been abolished by Sheikh Hasina herself 5 years ago, before the 2019 elections. How can then you say that Sheikh Hasina has put these quotas? And then after the 2024 elections, when somebody went to court and the judge reinstated the quotas, then the Sheikh Hasina government went to the Supreme Court asking for that once again they be abolished. So with all this background, it is very clear that it was a regime change operation in July, August 2024. And as a result of the regime change operation, you have seen a whole list, a cascade of events happening in Bangladesh, which have been very shocking, not only to neighbors like India, but to all other countries of the world as well. Any like-minded democratic individuals and groups are shocked at what has been happening in Bangladesh.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to notify to our audience, you have mentioned some incredible and I would say that excellent argument. For example, if we consider, I agree with you, for example, Jamaat-e-Islam. Jamaat-e-Islam actually doesn't believe in the constitution of Bangladesh, and it was the anti-liberation force. And Bangladesh only government, they banned Jamaat-e-Islam by the order of the court and judgment of the court, not by the executive order. That is the argument. I would like to mention two other things that you have mentioned, that Dr. Mohammed Yunus clearly stated that that is a meticulously designed regime change. At the same time, you ask the questions why democratic nations don't raise the questions against the institutional government. For example, you referred Australia. Australia is a country that ensured that people from all walks of lives, for example, if we consider the indigenous people, they are marginalized, disadvantaged, and as well as vulnerable people. But Australia government through historical, outside the reform policy changes they have included. But Awami League is not in this stage. Awami League, such a party that gave birth to the nation. So that is the main argument. And you also, I would say that gently, softly, and incredibly said that Awami League government has followed all the stages of quota reform, but they have used as a weapon for the ouster or overthrow of Sheikh Hasina government. Thank you so much, and I just want to get to another questions. That is, look like, rather than this one, I'd like to talk about now referendum. You know that what is going on in Bangladesh currently now. It is not only about the elections. That is, 12th of February that people will go and give for vote. No, they meticulously designed a referendum which is very ambiguous and actually really difficult to understand, even for highly educated people. You know that they have created 4 questions, but under 4 questions, they have 104 questions, sub questions. Out of that, 47 questions are strongly relevant to constitutions. And once people go for yes vote without understanding, that means the legacy of democracy, the legacy of Bangladesh, the legacy of birth of Bangladesh, and which we say that the ideology will be changed. So I just want to look like, as well as political parties didn't have legacy and concerns, and I would say that consensus to pass this what can I say, the look like order that is we call the July Charter, the way they are organizing referendum. My questions to you that is in what ways and to what degree can an ambiguous government-sponsored referendum transform Bangladesh's state ideology and democratic directions? I just want to tell you that why I use the word government-sponsored. Again, I would like to give examples of Australia and UK. When they have organized a referendum, the government didn't campaign for yes vote. But this is the only government across the world. I think that the only one government in the world who is campaigning, mobilizing, influencing people to go for yes vote. So what is your thought how this referendum can change Bangladesh's state ideology and democratic direction in future if the government really can do the job?
Look, I think we have to go down to basics here. How can you talk about a referendum when there is no provision for a referendum in the Constitution of Bangladesh? Exactly. I mean, you're talking about an unconstitutional event. The interim regime was sworn in on the Constitution of Bangladesh at a time when there was no provision in the Constitution of Bangladesh for an interim regime. So the interim regime itself is unconstitutional and an illegitimate government. So how can an illegitimate government organize another unconstitutional event, which is a referendum, and think they can have any should I say, legality for this or any acceptability for it? I think this is another part of the hypocrisy of the Western world, that they are willing to accept the results of the referendum. How is this happening? How come that countries like Australia, UK, USA, who were all supporting the regime change operation in Bangladesh, how can they, now say that this referendum is also acceptable? When the interim regime of Dr. Yunus was sworn in, there was no provision in the constitution. Now, then after that, they organized this mobocracy. They organized mobs going and surrounding all the judges of the previous government and surrounding them and forcing them to resign, and then appointing Jamaat-e-Islami sponsored or nominated people in their place. So you have now a huge regime throughout Bangladesh, where everybody in the academia has been changed, everybody in the bureaucracy has been changed to suit the Jamaat-e-Islami, academia has been changed to suit the Jamaat-e-Islami, the judiciary has been changed to suit the Jamaat-e-Islami. So all the institutions of state are now controlled by the Jamaat-e-Islami. And everybody has allowed it to happen by just, eyes wide shut, I think. Open but shut, and just allowing it to happen. Now, even so, even this new judiciary that had been sworn in, they have actually revived the provision for caretaker government, and they have put it into the constitution. So the best process now is that having revived this provision, and there is no, in Bangladesh, they're trying to say, oh, this will be valid from the next election. There is nothing like that in the judgment. The judgment has not even been released,
Yep.
actually. So it just shows the kind of lack of transparency, the kind of opacity that there is in the conduct of the government. So now they are, now that the provision is there back in the constitution, all you need to do is to appoint a new caretaker chief within the provisions of that article of the constitution. Like, for example, there used to be the provision that the immediate past Chief Justice of Bangladesh will be the head of the caretaker government. So whatever the provisions are, you please appoint a person and let there be a caretaker government who will take the 90 days required to conduct free, fair and inclusive elections. Because under the present system, Yunus has no authority to conduct a referendum. He has no authority to conduct this kind of constitutional reform commission and, calling people like Ali Riaz from the USA and, have a reform commission for the judiciary and the bureaucracy and everybody. And at the same time, they have been completely ignoring the absolute disastrous violence, law and order disaster, the killings of people, the killing of the Awami League people, the killing of the minorities, the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Christians, the Sufis and the Ahmadiyyas. All these people, they're losing their lives. In December, the calculation was that maybe almost 3,000 incidents of such have taken place. And we know about the lynchings and so on and so forth. We know about the Awami Leaguers who are in jail without any kind of trial, without any FIR, sometimes accused of murder. In fact, today the news came that the former Minister for Water Resources, Ramesh Chandra, he passed away. So in jail. So, I mean, there is absolutely no expression of regret or anything by this government. I am absolutely appalled at the state of affairs in Bangladesh. Absolutely appalled. And you don't know how it can be that, you have the British High Commissioners like the Viceroy in Delhi, in Dhaka, and, doing all this. The same person who actually told Sheikh Hasina in 24 that why isn't the BNP participating? And then when she said that it is their choice, I have not banned the BNP. But now that same person is accepting that the Awami League can be banned, the activities of Awami League can be banned, and that the elections can be held. So this is the whole question, that how is it that such a referendum is being allowed to take place? It should never be allowed. Only an elected parliament can change the constitution, bring in a referendum, if they want to bring in the referendum in the constitution, and then arrange a referendum. And you're absolutely right, the referendum clauses are totally opaque. There's a list, there are 4 segments, and there's a list, as you said, I thought it was 84, but you're saying there are actually more than 100 questions there. And you have to answer one yes or no. There is no individual recourse. So what is the purpose of putting 104 questions? You could have put just one question. So all these kind of illegal acts, which in no country of the world will a referendum be organized, where you have more than, as you say, 100 questions, and then one yes or no answer. This shows that you don't think the people of your country can think for themselves. It shows what the opinion of the Yunus administration is about the people of Bangladesh. They think they can just get this referendum adopted, and with that, all the clauses of the constitution will be changed. And there are many countries, many political parties who did not accept many clauses of the referendum. Many clauses of the question and answer of the July Charter.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yes, exactly. The BNP itself said that we don't accept all the questions, and they were campaigning for a no vote in the referendum. But then pressure has been put on them by the Americans, by all the others, by Jamaat-e-Islami, and now they've changed and said, no, we should have a yes campaign. So I think all these matters are showing that indeed this whole question of having this kind of a referendum and this kind of a situation where people have given this kind of answer is completely undemocratic. It is not in keeping with any democratic norms. I mean, in Switzerland, they have referendums all the time. But in Switzerland, when they have the referendums, they're very clear-cut. They're in keeping with the constitution of Switzerland. They're in keeping with what is allowed under the constitution. And here it is so ambiguous. There is no democracy involved at all. And you're absolutely right that the government, the regime itself is campaigning for a yes vote. In fact, the Election Commission had to write to the government and say, please, you're not supposed to be campaigning for a yes vote. But is there any penalty on the interim regime? No. It's just going on regardless. So it's really shocking what is going on in Bangladesh. I'm quite amazed at it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to add something with you. For example, the confusion and ambiguity comes from itself, the order and ordinance of the president. According to the Constitution of Bangladesh, the president of Bangladesh actually can't declare any order. That should be ordinance. So the July Charter, the constitution reform, that is a order, and it doesn't have any constitutional base. That is the main argument. And
Yes,
based on this order, then president declared the ordinance for referendum, which is completely illegal,
yes.
ambiguous, and null and void. Another issue that you have raised, this one for our audience, would like to mention that uh, under Article 93, which says that President of Bangladesh can declare the emergency, but at the same time, Parliament should be existed. So that time, Bangladesh didn't have any parliament, so this government didn't have any authority. What they have done based on power, you are a feminist scholar, and you know that power and authority are totally different. I have money,
Yeah.
I can show power. I have gun, I can show power. I have people, I can show power. But for authority, I should need people authorization to do something. Thank you so much for your excellent analysis. I would like to move to another issues that you have talked about. I was listening to you talk about some of the person Masood from Hizbut Tahrir. We know that when Sheikh Hasina was ousted, and a lot of religious fundamentalists, if you consider the highest leaders of Hizbut Tahrir, Ansarullah Bangla team, Jamatul Mujahideen, that we call JMB, and as well as look like the war criminal from Jamaat Islami, a lot of criminals, not only them but also other criminals. Those were the look like main what can I say, culprit of threatening people for Bangladesh as well as for regional instability. Those are the
Mhm.
people. For example, if you consider Sweden Aslam, he is not a political person. He was arrested in 1998, and that time I was a student of class 8. I could still remember that was the first success of Sheikh Hasina, who arrested a top class or top listed terrorist. This government also made him free. So through these situations, we see that it is a overall rising of Islamic fundamentalism. I would rather say that religious fundamentalism, because I just want to make a separation between Islam and Islamic fundamentalism. 90% people in Bangladesh are Muslim. I would say that equal number of people are Hindus in India. So religion and fundamentalism are totally different. We talk about against the illegal uses of religion for the political purpose to make people fall. So, all of those things, as well as, that the Rohingya crisis, we know that, look like in some cases they are using Rohingyas. Some people, if you consider Arakan army, this government also gave them free entry in Bangladesh, and they are doing a lot of, terrorist activism. So consider all of those things. How does rising religious fundamentalism in Bangladesh affect regional stability in South Asia and broader international relations? The questions I asked you, we know that if this region is unstable, it means that India will be will not be stable, Myanmar will not be stable, Pakistan will not be stable, and that will be spread out across the world. So how do you think that this rising, especially I'm talking about Jamaat Islami, I'm talking about Hafazat Islam, those are the people, though, those who use religion to make people fall and campaign, motivate, and that way they change the ideological position of Bangladesh from secularism to pro-Pakistan ideology. So how do you evaluate this one, the rise of fundamentalism that can create threat in Bangladesh, in South Asia, and international context?
Oh, I think it's very dangerous. I think what you're saying is absolutely right. And, one has to see and recall that in Bangladesh, so many elections have been held from whether it is 1970 election, which then became the fundamental group of people who fought the liberation war led by Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, even in subsequent elections in 73 and others, the Islamist parties have never got a vote. We have to remember that in the liberation war of 1971, it was a defeat for Pakistan and the Islamist parties like Jamaat-e-Islami. They were the ones on the losing side. But now the same forces that were on the losing side in 1971 have combined, and they think they have come to power. But they know they should recall that in all these intervening 54 years, the fundamentalist parties like Jamaat-e-Islami have never had popular support in Bangladesh. They have never received more than 10, maximum 12% of the vote. And even though they were in government in alliance with BNP in between 2001 and 2006, but we know that there's no popular support for this ideology at all. And this time, after the regime change operation, the Jamaat-e-Islami had been the power behind the throne. They have been the power behind Muhammad Yunus. Actually, Muhammad Yunus is only the mouthpiece of the Jamaat-e-Islami. Whatever they tell him to do, he has been doing. It is actually a regime run by the Jamaat-e-Islami. And that is how the whole engineering of the whole regime change operation took place, where Pakistan was leading it through the Jamaat-e-Islami, because Jamaat-e-Islami has always been the conduit for Pakistan in Bangladesh, right from 1941, I think. And then, Pakistan was formed, and then West Pakistan, East Pakistan, but always this relationship with Jamaat-e-Islami in first East Pakistan and then Bangladesh has always been there. So they're the ones who did that. And now the Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to engineer the situation so that they can come to power. But I think the biggest question to be asked here, I know that there are all these polls which are going on and all these, so much vote percentage for, but I think we have to recall and remember that the people of Bangladesh don't want Islamic fundamentalism. So this is an attempt to engineer the vote and to thrust Islamic fundamentalism and Islamism. I absolutely agree with your complete bifurcation between the religion of Islam and Islamism and Islamic fundamentalism. There's a very strong division between the two, and one has to always remember that very clearly, because everybody, all the people of Bangladesh, the 90% plus people who follow Islam, they are Sufis, many of them. They believe in moderate Islam. The whole history of Islam in East Pakistan, in East Bengal, and then in East Pakistan has been through the Sufis, through moderation. And that is why there's always been a great recognition and acceptance of secularism, of pluralism, of everybody following their own religion. But now, the Jamaat-e-Islami wants Sharia law. And Islami Andolan Bangladesh, these parties definitely want Sharia law. Hifazat-e-Islam was created after Sheikh Hasina tried to have a very forward-looking progressive policy, say, for example, the women's development policy that she brought about. So I think that, I have to recall that in Bangladesh in the last 18 months, I already mentioned about the condition of the Awami Leaguers, and I mentioned about the condition of the minorities, but I must also mention about the condition of the women. And the women have been so poorly treated in the last 18 months. Their rights have been taken away. They're not allowed to walk freely. Recently, a few days ago, the Amir of Jamaat-e-Islami made a very derogatory comment about women and saying that women must stay in the house, otherwise use such terrible words about it. And the women of the university erupted. They were so angry about it. And a few weeks ago, when Muhammad Yunus tried to be liberal and wanted to put on, he said, I will bring singing teachers and music teachers into all the schools and colleges and so on. And the Jamaat-e-Islami forced him to change the decision. Then again, the university students were very unhappy. Everybody in Bangladesh says that culture and religion are two sides of the same coin. They are together with each other. Culture is important and religion is important. So everybody, this is our philosophy also in India. It's the philosophy in Bangladesh, which we fully support, that culture and religion are both important. Your language, your literature, where you are born, and also your religion. Your identity is a combination of everything. It's not just one or the other. So that is why I think that Bangladesh people have always voted for the liberal parties and democratic parties. They're very proud of the liberation war of 1971. So what is happening to the women today in Bangladesh is absolutely unacceptable. I don't know how, again, the Western country are closing their eyes to all of this. And they're just, letting it happen. And look at the condition of the media. The media is completely muzzled in Bangladesh. They don't allow all the media houses, the boardrooms have been changed. So many journalists have lost their lives. So many journalists are in jail on murder charges. People have died in jail in the last 18 months. No trial, no FIR, no bail, nothing.
Nothing.
It is the same. The media is supposed to protect the rights of individuals. Here, the rights of journalists have been trampled upon. But nobody is saying anything. That is the shocking part. Again and again and again, I'm saying that please, where is the voice of the West, the so-called West that always prides itself on democracy and human rights and so on, and lectures countries on human rights? And in Bangladesh, they are silent. Why? Why is it happening like that? I think this is very important. We do feel in India very strongly that uh, uh, the way in which religious fundamentalist groups have been allowed to rise, the way in which Pakistan is bringing back even groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed into Bangladesh, the way that all the last 54 years of very strict controls on the relationship with Pakistan have been completely changed. Everything has been changed. And now, you have the army coming in. The army of Pakistan is trying to embed themselves with the Bangladesh army. And you spoke about the Rohingyas also. We don't know what is happening. They are, fighting with the Myanmar army against the Arakan army. At one point, they said they're going to, there's ARSA, there are terrorist organizations like ARSA and the RSO. So all this is happening, but we are so worried about it. And we really are watching the scene very carefully to see how it will be, it will go further. And I certainly fully agree that these are very negative developments for Bangladesh, very negative developments, and they should not be really allowed to carry on like that.
Thank you so much, Sikri. Such an I would say that a wonderful explanation. And
Yeah, and I do think very strongly that all that is happening in terms of religious fundamentalism will certainly have a very adverse effect on regional stability in South Asia. And I would like to also point out to your viewers that you're talking about restrictive elections in Bangladesh where the Awami League is not being allowed to take part. We had similar color revolutions in Sri Lanka in 2022 and in Nepal in 2025, and even in Pakistan after Imran Khan was jailed and the elections were held, his political party people were allowed to take part in the elections even as independents.
yes.
And in Nepal last year, when there was this general resolution, and Sushila Karki is controlling,
Yep.
is the head of the interim government. And but Oli Sharma, his government was brought down because it was very unpopular. But his party is taking part in the elections. There is no restriction on his party. Similarly, in Sri Lanka, Rajapaksa government was brought down, all these nepotistic posts were removed, but his party took part in the election. You don't get votes, that's another matter. That's free and fair and participatory election. Somebody will win, somebody will lose. That's perfectly all right. But everybody must be allowed to take part, and there must be no attempt to bring in religious fundamentalism like this, as the Jamaat-e-Islami is doing in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Sikri. I just want to add something with you. You have raised questions why Western democracies. Sometimes I also feel surprised. For example, they're the bearer, as well as they spread their ideology based on the feminism, right? And feminism it could be post-modernism, it could be socialism, it could be radical, it could be liberal. Whatever the people, whatever women accept this one, that doesn't matter. But the issue is that they are spreading, they are advocating, but in the case of Bangladesh, they are completely silent. So that is the worry for Bangladesh, that they are not concerned about the women's rights. They're concerned about women's rights in Saudi. They're concerned about women's rights in Afghanistan, because we understand the the weapon they are playing. I just want to mention one more thing, that if you consider, I'm not sure whether because I'm just curious to know, because even a lot more than me. I'm a Bangladeshi, but the way you are explaining, honestly speaking, you read newspapers, you are concerned about women's rights, people's rights, and largest political rights. Recently, Jamaat Islam secretary, he gave a statement that looked such a vague statement. Election, there are two fundamentals and mandatory ingredients or elements. One is participatory, another is inclusiveness. Participatory, it is relevant to the voters who will participate in and every cases without fear, intimidations, anything. On the other hand, inclusiveness is strongly relevant to the political party without having a valid ground based on the discrimination. As I mentioned, the Article 25 of Universal Declarations, as well as ICP 21, which call that without a valid ground, nobody can ban a political party. You gave the examples of Sri Lanka, Nepal. You gave example of other nations as well. So which is not been happening for Bangladesh, unfortunately. I would like to move to different questions, although you have give some answers, but I'd like to listen to you a little bit more. The thing I wanted to ask, Jamaat says that I'm a, what can I say, moderate Islamic, I have a moderate Islamic political party. I will not implement Sharia law, but if we analyze the characteristics of Jamaat Islam, I can surely say that that is the, I would say that wrong promise, or playing promise with the nations. If they can capture the political power of the Bangladesh, will be another Afghanistan in this region. So how do you see the de-evolutions of women rights in Bangladesh, and what particularly women should do? Without having a political party look like Awami League who bears the ideology of secularism. Even, BNP doesn't believe in women's right, liberations, freedom, liberty. So what do you want to say to Bangladeshi women?
I want to tell them that they must fight for their rights, because, I myself, for the last 17 years, I've been running an organization called South Asia Women's Network, which brings together women from 9 countries, all the 8 countries of South Asia, and also Myanmar, because Myanmar, west of the Irrawaddy River, has a very strong South Asian identity, in addition to its own Southeast Asian identity as well. And we say that women's rights is as much a human rights issue as a developmental issue as well. And, Bangladesh has had 30 years or more than 30 years of women prime minister. But even then, it shows that you have to be so careful and alert to protect the rights of women, because women feel completely marginalized in the present situation. You know that Jamaat-e-Islami does not have a single woman candidate, not even one. And I think BNP has like 10 out of 250. So overall, the number of women participating in the election is less than 4%. It is 3.93% of women candidates in these elections. So I think anybody should be asking this question. The women themselves should be asking this question. I already gave you the example where the women of Dhaka University have already come out to express their concern. And we know that, the NCP, the National Citizens Party, which is called the King's Party, because it is supposed to be the King's Party, Muhammad Yunus's party, and the students the so-called students, actually they were all Islamic Chhatra Shibir people. And in the beginning, some students of Dhaka University and other universities, thinking that yes, this is the issue of quota reform, etc. So they joined, but very quickly they realized that they have no place in the party. So they went back and they sort of, just actually went back to being students. So all the people left in the NCP were only the Islamic Chhatra Shibir and so on. But there were some lady students. Now, when the NCP, claiming to be, the leader of the revolution, claiming to be a modern party with a modern outlook and fighting for reform in Bangladesh, then they joined the Jamaat-e-Islami in the coalition for the election. And so many women left the NCP. After NCP joined the coalition of Jamaat-e-Islami, they left. And anyway, Jamaat-e-Islami has only given them a very few number of seats. In fact, some of the ladies who were earlier with the NCP are now standing as independents. So I'm just giving you an example how the so-called July Revolution, which is actually not at all a student uprising, not spontaneous, it's a fake. It's a fake event. It's being projected as all these democratic things, but it really is nothing except a regime change operation to bring in Islamism into Bangladesh. And the opinion of the women is very clear. The ones who are in the NCP, they left. Some of them are fighting independently. The ones who went back to Dhaka University really came on the streets and said, we want our singing and music and culture to be followed. When the Amir of Jamaat-e-Islami made a very derogatory remarks against women, again, the university students protested. And the head of the women's wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami then comes and says, oh no, Amir was absolutely right, because men are the managers of women. Yes. Imagine a country like Bangladesh, which has been in the forefront of women's rights, and then coming back to this situation and the West keeping completely silent. I mean, what is this? If this is not going back to what you described as Afghanistan, I mean, it's really serious, And I think that one has to really worry about this and see how women's rights must be protected. Because certainly, if after these elections, I do not know what the outcome is going to be. I do not know how, because it is such a contentious issue and it is so difficult within Bangladesh what is happening today. But I think the women are going to be very, very unhappy with the results. And Sharia law, even though uh, the Ahmadi Jamaat Islami had, after originally speaking in favor of Sharia law, and the Islami Andolan Bangladesh joined the coalition with Jamaat Islami because Sharia law was part of the manifesto.
Yes.
But then under pressure from the USA, which was accepted by the USA, that they gave the pressure, and they've now said in that conversation which was taped by the Washington Post, etc., they've said that, if Jamaat Islami brings in Sharia law, we'll put 100% tariffs. I mean, this is like treating it such a shallow method. This is a matter of life and death for the people of Bangladesh. What kind of life they want, what kind of what they believe in: democracy, nationalism, secularism, socialism, social justice. In the last 18 months, the economy of Bangladesh has collapsed. Women are out of jobs in the hundreds of thousands. So many factories have closed, ready-made garment factories. Primarily women were employed, and they're out of jobs.
Yep.
I mean, really, somebody was telling me that even up to 1 million women may have lost their jobs because so many factories have closed down. Yes. The economic growth rate has halved. Inflation is very high. No foreign investment has come in from anybody, even though so-called political support in the Western countries is there, but there's no foreign investment coming in.
Yes.
And so the situation is really dire, and I really hope that there is a realization soon, very, very, very soon, that this is not the way to organize elections.
Thank you so much. I'd like to I'm really enjoying, because the way you are talking, explaining, arguing is really, really nice. I just want to add something with you in relation to women. Probably, with respect to Bangladeshi educated women, I think that they need to revisit the women's political empowerment, women's, we know that the debate, women's representations, if we consider descriptive, substantive, as well as symbolic representations, actually women I'm talking about educated people, the new generation, they don't know the contributions of Sheikh Hasina initially to increase the descriptive representation of women through reforming the law in 1997, the local government ordinance 1997, which act or ordinance went against the fundamentalism. And it was a serious fight to bring women outside of home, just avoiding the threat of the mullahs that we say women doesn't, realize. Then it comes to substantive representations. Look like women can make decisions, family, society, corporate governance, bank, bima, as corporations, as well as government. Now it comes to symbolic. Women can symbolize themselves. I can follow Sheikh Hasina, whatever, regardless criticism, Khaleda Zia, Roshan Ershad, or other, women political leaders. I want to look like this one. Because of this July and August conspiracy, Bangladeshi women have lost each and everything. I'll ask you last questions, but before this one, I'd like to ask a small question. So rather than ask, I want to know your opinion. Unfortunately, the leftist political parties in Bangladesh, they have been the alliance of this illegal government, and their manifesto, their thinking, their ideology, everything against their, what can I say, agreement that they have made or promised against the women. So why actually leftist political parties align with this fundamentalist government, and they also can't protect and protest against, de-evaluations against women in Bangladesh? It's very shortly, 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, actually it's shocking, because I think the leftist parties are being totally opportunistic. Some parties, like the Workers' Party, we know they've decided not to participate completely in the elections and they're out. But many of the leftist parties have joined. I saw this Bangladesh Labour Party has now joined the Jamaat Islami as the 11th party in the coalition. After Islami Andolan in Bangladesh dropped out, the Bangladesh Labour Party has joined. So I think it's quite shocking. It's very opportunistic. It shows that what is happening in Bangladesh has nothing to do with the absolutely strong fight of of principles and values that took place in 1961. You know, the 6-point program which was made before that, and that was fought for. And after that, the principles of democracy, pluralism, secularism, nationalism, and social justice. Those kept Bangladesh going, and Sheikh Hasina was able to bring 6.5-7% growth rate. Bangladesh was going to graduate out of the LDC status, all because women were getting so much employment. 4-5 million women working in the ready-made garments industry, and all this was happening. But now it's a complete reversal. It's a complete regression. And I do not know how long Bangladesh will take to get out of the situation, because now it's very clear whatever they're doing, they think they're doing politically. Nobody wants to invest in Bangladesh. They know how volatile the situation is, how much the law and order has completely disappeared off the street. So many policemen were killed. In the UN, the so-called UN report, which said that 1,400 people were killed between, I think, 15 July, they're talking about, and 15th August. But from 5 to 15 August, Sheikh Hasina was not even there. And in fact, all the newspapers of the day said that up to the point of 5th August, when Sheikh Hasina left the country, only 350 people had lost their life, which is also a big tragedy. I'm not saying it's at all minimal. And Sheikh Hasina and her son, Sajeev Wade Joy, have said that we will take full responsibility on a full investigation up to the 5th of August. After that, 1,000 more people died by the 15th of August.
Yes.
But there is no accountability. Policemen have died, police stations have been robbed, all the weapons have been taken away. They're now being used to kill the people of Bangladesh. And there is no sense of responsibility either by the interim regime or by any of the countries supporting the interim regime to recognize what has really happened. It is really shocking.
Thank you. Last question. So I just want to know, I'd like to get some sense of that. That Bangladesh holds a crucial geopolitical position in South Asia, and the Indo-Pacific, drawing the attention of global and regional countries whose economic, strategic, and diplomatic interactions frequently collide with domestic political dynamics. Should a national election occur without the involvement of a significant political parties like the Awami League, the influence and perceptions of outsider actors may become increasingly salient. I just want to ask you, how do you evaluate the influence of the USA, China, and Pakistan on contemporary politics in Bangladesh, particularly in an election without the Awami League's participations? With this one, a small thing, if Dr. Yunus can implement their strategy driven by USA, China, and Pakistan, what would be the diplomatic relationships with or other neighbor countries with Bangladesh, or Bangladesh with other neighbor countries in South Asia? What's your evaluation?
Well, I think that certainly as far as the involvement of Pakistan and China and USA are concerned, this is well known. I mean, they are the people who did created that entire regime change plan and who put the operation into motion. China was very much in the know of that operation, and sometimes I wonder whether China and USA are colluding on what is happening in Bangladesh, because China has been very quiet, but at the same time they're inviting Jamaat-e-Islami repeatedly to come to Beijing, and they're inviting the BNP to come to Beijing. And you know also that when Muhammad Yunus went to Beijing last June, he made this absolutely obnoxious statement about the northeast of India. And he told the Chinese businessmen, oh, come to Bangladesh, we are the ones who have access to North India, we'll take you there. So, I mean, the government of India expressed its absolute abhorrence of this statement and made a very strong response. But Muhammad Yunus is not bothered. He's been so anti-Indian in his statements and actions that you feel that he thinks that Pakistan is behind him and the other Western countries are also behind him. We don't understand why the Western countries are creating a volatile situation in South Asia which will affect regional stability, because none of the work of the Indo-Pacific, which is a very, very important maritime security, keeping the sea lanes of communication open, all these are very important aspects of what we have been working on in the Indo-Pacific. There has been the Quad, but even among the countries of Quad, between India and Japan, India and Australia, we have very clear strategic partnerships with these countries, and we are working with them bilaterally and in the context of Quad on maritime security, on free and fair and open sea lanes of communication, and we will continue that effort. But
Yes.
if you think that you're going to have a different regime in Bangladesh who is only interested in destroying the peace and stability of South Asia, then of course India will have to think very seriously about it. Because I think that, as you know, India has a neighborhood first foreign policy, and as part of this neighborhood first foreign policy, we have, I think the India Bangladesh model was a very successful model of cooperation, mutually
Yes.
beneficial, mutually respectful, and taking into account the best examples and best interests of both countries. And we did that. We were able to do that with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina because the respect for each other's
Each other.
security red lines are very important. I know I was there when Begum Khalda Zia was Prime Minister, when Jamaat Islami was in the government, when Pakistan was very active in Bangladesh at that time, with they are again now. And at that time, there was full support being given in Bangladesh for the Northeast Indian insurgent groups. But the
Yes.
moment, we kept telling the Bangladesh government, look, please respect India's security red line, they wouldn't listen. But when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came, she decided to respect India's security red line. And for the next 15 years, we had peace and development in Northeast India. And Bangladesh was able to grow at 6.5%, 7% per year, and even graduate out of the LDC status, which I don't know now what's going to happen to that. So I think that certainly, given the very positive experience of our neighborhood first foreign policy, and the way in which, when Sri Lanka went through its economic crisis, it's India who went to their help and gave them $4 billion. China didn't come at all. China turned its back. And with Bangladesh also, under Sheikh Hasina, we had offered $8 billion credit line at very, very reasonable rates, much better than what China offers. And so many projects of connectivity, all benefiting Bangladesh business interests, Bangladesh logistics firms, Bangladesh groups, and giving employment to Bangladeshis. All these came about. Now, what is happening under this government, without any authority at all? For example,
Yes.
in Mir Sarai near Chittagong, where there was going to be
Exactly.
the special economic zone, now a Chinese drone factory is going to be installed over there.
Yes.
So
It's
it's
military
very
plan.
shocking.
Yeah.
Yes,
Very
yes,
shocking.
we are watching it
You
very
thank.
closely, and
Yeah.
we'll take action at the right time.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got your point. Although I asked the question diplomatically, you gave the answer very straight away, which is very good, and Bangladesh should understand. Would you like to make a clear, statement that uh,
So
ideologically the different that, for example, we can campaign against Islamic fundamentalism if there is a free, fair, participatory, credible, and inclusive elections. Whatever comes to the political power, that doesn't matter. But the
exactly.
exactly issue is that it was a pre-designed, pre-planned, meticulously arranged elections, and that way they want to bring the Islamic fundamentalism in Bangladesh state power, politics, and they want to make the whole South Asian region unstable. That's why I just want to tell our people, please don't go for vote. If you give
Yes,
this vote, you will lose your freedom, your liberty, your liberation. It is your
yes.
responsibility which way you will walk.
Yes. No,
It
I
is up
fully
to
agree
you.
with you. Yeah, I think that the Awami League's no vote campaign
Yep.
is very important and very valid, because, yes, you're right. If people go and vote and then they're able to show a participation higher than the 2024 elections, then they will start saying, oh, this is an absolutely successful election, without
Successful.
realizing that it is non-participatory. So I think that this is very, very important, and the people of Bangladesh must realize this, and they must fight for that. They have done it before. In 1971, shoulder to shoulder, we were able to get for Bangladesh, the liberation, the freedom, the independence, and Bangladesh has done so well,
Yes.
amazingly well. And now, in 18 months, they have been pushed back by many, many, many years, even decades, into a very poor economic situation, and only the countries are taking their own pound of flesh, what they want, what they think they want from there. But we know that the people of Bangladesh, there are many in Bangladesh who say, "Age bhalo chilo," it was better before. They're saying now,
Yeah, that is the important thing. Yeah.
yeah, and so they know, they accept. But I agree with you that the no vote campaign is very good, and they should be
Yeah.
followed. So
Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Veena, which is excellent analysis. Thank you so much, dear audience, who have been with us for last 1 hour. We just want to say Bangladesh is in a situations that is searching for the right direction, Currently, it is at a crossroad. Your decisions, your choice can make a huge difference. Where your choice is not into the ballot, you should not go for vote. So no vote, no vote. Stefan, thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you for joining with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye bye.